I have a lot of fish. Some of them are pretty rare, but none of them are as rare as these. Hey fish friends, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Zenzo from Tazawa Tanks. Now I have a lot of fish tanks. I've got a bunch of fish tanks, aquariums down here in this room, my fish room. I have a bunch of tanks upstairs, and I've been keeping fish for many years, going back probably to, well, seriously, probably for about 20 years or so, a little bit more maybe. But you know, even when I was a kid, I had fish. So I've been keeping fish for a long time, and I've had my hands on all types of fish from various continents. In fact, right now I have fish from Asia, South America, Africa, West Africa, East Africa, etc. So I've got a lot of different fish. Some of my fish are very common, like Malawi cichlids, African cichlids. My Oscars are very common, and I have fish that are pretty rare, like my African and Indian mudskippers that you don't see very often in the hobby. They are hard to find, and not a lot of people know how to keep them. Recently, I got my hands on some fish that are super rare. I've never kept them before, and I'm super excited to share with you guys today the fish that I got. So without a lot of drama, the fish that I got are some Blennies. Now, Blennies are not rare by themselves. You know, Blennies are very common in the saltwater hobby. You'll see them in reef tanks and, you know, various fowler tanks, and they are a very interesting fish. A lot of people will get Blennies confused with gobies because they look similar. They have that same kind of cylindrical body. They have very similar characteristics, but they are actually a different type of fish. Now, Blennies in the saltwater world, I guess, the reef aquarium world, is not uncommon, but to find them in freshwater or brackish water tanks, you don't see that very often. Now, the fish that I have are the top hat Blennies, and a lot of people kind of miscategorize them and call them a freshwater Blenny. They're not really a freshwater Blenny, they are a brackish water fish. Now, there might be some Blennies out there that are freshwater. I think that Celeria fluviatus is one of those that people think is freshwater, but these fish that I have are actually brackish water. So brackish water is a mixture of freshwater and saltwater. The reason why people think that they can be kept in freshwater is, truthfully, they can survive in freshwater because brackish water systems often have fresh water. So brackish water is where a river or a body of water meets the ocean or a salt area, and anytime, depending on the tide, the flow of the river, the estuary, etc., the water might be from completely fresh to pretty salty to almost like full-on salt. So it does vary very much as far as salinity is concerned. So they can survive and do okay in freshwater, but ideally you're going to keep them in a brackish water environment. Now, I got these fish from Bob Steenfod at Steenfod Aquatics. A lot of you know who that is. I will put a link down below in the description of his website. He is selling fish online. He was able to find these fish a couple of months ago and has been taking care of them. Decided that they weren't really for him and they wasn't something that he would be selling on his website, so he sent them to me, just said, hey, here you go, buddy, and put them in a box and shipped them to me. So very, very happy and thankful to be able to get these fish because they are hard to find, and I am going to take care of them, and I'm very much looking forward to putting them in one of my brackish systems. Nice and toasty, still warm. Some seaweed, all right. And there's one swimming for sure. I love how these are packed, by the way. So that guy is swimming, I saw that. And that one is swimming too. Two alive. Now let's talk about my brackish tanks. Now I've got, I don't even know how many brackish tanks I have anymore because 1, 2, 3, 4. Technically 5 because one is a quarantine tank. So I've got 4 like display brackish tanks. I've got my African mudskipper tank. I have my what's in there? My night gobies and my green spot puffer in my African tank. I've got a figure 8 puffer. I've got bumblebee gobies and Indian mudskippers in another brackish system. And the newest brackish system that I shared in a recent video, I'll put a link of that up here. That tank now has fiddler crabs. So a lot of you were trying to guess in that video. I put a poll on that, you know, I had asked you guys what you thought the fish were, the animal was that I put in there. I got fiddler crabs. I've never kept crabs before in an aquarium. I was thinking about putting them in some of my other tanks, but because I have puffers, puffers and crabs don't mix because puffers will make lunch of them. They will be able to crack their shells with their beak and eat the meat and kill the crabs. So I was able to get some crabs. I built a new 55-gallon brackish system with the shelf, and they are in there. They've been in there for a while now. They're doing well, and the Blennies are going to go in that aquarium. Now, one of the things that I was kind of curious about or making sure is, would the Blennies be able to be in with the fiddler crabs, because the fiddler crabs do have claws? And doing a little bit of research, I think that's going to be just fine. Now, before I do that, before I put them in there, I am going to put some other fish in that tank just to make sure that everything is, you know, balanced, and as far as like behavior and making sure that the fiddlers aren't too nippy. But the Blennies are pretty quick. They're pretty tough in their own right. They're not that small compared to the fiddler crabs, so I think they'll be just fine. So there's lots of space in there. There's a lot of hiding places. I don't think anyone's going to be fighting for territory, so they are going to go in that tank eventually, but currently they are in a 10-gallon quarantine tank just because I wanted to observe them. I wanted to feed them. I wanted to just make sure that everything was healthy and observe and make sure that before I put them in the other tank that they're going to be fine. Now, I am going to add some other fish in that tank, and I've talked about that. In fact, I shared that in an Instagram live stream. So if you aren't following me on Instagram, you should follow me on Instagram, because I often will reveal things like a week or two ahead of time and give you guys kind of that inside behind the scenes stuff that I don't share on YouTube, or I share it way before I do here on YouTube. So I am going to put some other fish in that tank along with the crabs and then eventually a Blennies, but that is what is going in the 55-gallon brackish tank. Now let's talk about feeding the fish. When Bob sent the fish to me, he actually packed some seaweed in there with the fish because he wanted to ensure that I had some food for them. Now, I do have seaweed. In fact, I sometimes use like seaweed that we eat, like on when I make like Asian food. I actually feed that to my fish as well because I buy like the unsalted kind. It's just plain seaweed. So I do have lots of seaweed, so some of my fish will eat that, like my Mbuna as an example, do like that, and it's very easy to get. But Bob was very kind in sending me some anyway because he was having some challenges feeding his fish and said that the only thing that they really seemed to eat were the pieces of seaweed. And the research that he did is that they actually will graze algae in these brackish systems. So he said that they kind of have a behavior of eating algae, so he was feeding them the seaweed and they were eating that just fine. I actually fed them seaweed and started feeding them spirulina flakes. So I am sponsored by Extreme Aquatic Foods, as a lot of you guys know, and I have lots of spirulina flakes available. And I put some in there and they ate it, they loved it, and so I put some in there as an experiment. Then the next day I came back, it was gone. Did it again, the next day it was gone. And so I actually just put some in and sat there and watched them just kind of attack these flakes. So happy to know that they are eating the flake food. I am going to try some different foods in the future, so I'll maybe try the krill flake and see if they eat that, and maybe some of the nano pellets, which the fiddler crabs love. But the fact that they are eating a flake food, the fact that I don't have to find some live food or, you know, grow some algae or something like that, makes me happy, and just knowing that it's going to be easier to care for these fish. If you have experience with keeping these brackish water Blennies, and I want to say people call them freshwater Blennies, but I'm going to call them brackish water Blennies. If you have experience keeping these type of fish, I would love to read down below in the comments what you've done, how long you had them for, how successful you were, and if you're also interested in learning more, comment down below. What do you think about these fish? Super interested. I love reading your comments. I am going to mention something here. Someone had commented on a video, two or three videos ago, I don't know what it was. They seemed to be upset that I didn't answer their comment, and they decided to unsubscribe because I didn't answer their comment. Even though I had answered his comments in other videos, and I try to respond as often as possible, I just can't respond and write back to every person that comments down below. I do read them all. I probably read 99% of the comments, and oftentimes you'll get like a little heart or a thumbs up from me, but I just can't type back to everybody. So if you comment down below and if I don't respond, don't take it to heart. It's not because I don't like what you wrote. It's not because I don't like you. I don't like your profile picture or anything like that. It's just I saw your comment, super cool, loved it, had to go on to the next one. So anyway, comment down below, like this video if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to this channel, Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.